Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today, in celebration of one of our favorite maps, Mob of the Dead, and the newly remastered Blood of the Dead, we wanted to show you how we made one of our newest props, the Afterlife electrical box.
To jump right in, some supplies you'll need is a 12-quart dish bowl, a 2-foot by 2-foot wood board, a metal-clad cable, PVC pipe in the diameters of 3/4 inch and 1/2 inch, assorted spray paints, a straight edge, and different various tools you'll see in the list below.
The first thing we did was measure 1 inch off the lip of the dish bowl so that we could cut that off and have a flat edge to make the electrical box. We marked it up with a Sharpie, and then we cut it with an X-Acto blade, making sure to be precise so that it could be as straight as possible.
You can use any blade you want, but we found that was going to be the easiest. There were different bumps and grooves on the back, including the brand logo, so we wanted to make sure to sand it off so we had a nice smooth surface that wouldn't hinder the end product. Once the surface was smooth, we marked 1 inch off of either side, and then 3 inches above and below, so that we were able to cut off a clean panel and paint it to look like metal.
With everything marked, we took a circular saw and cut it out, and it came out looking like this.
After we were happy with how it looked, we sanded the edges and laid it out to be spray painted, making sure to do thin, light coats so that we didn't cause any drippage in the paint, and so it looked more unanimous.
We used the same technique on the dish bowl, and then hit the back panel with another layer of paint to ensure even coverage and good color.
We used various hammered spray paints to mist over the panel to make it look more metallic instead of just wood and plastic. With a light layer of black, it also brings a more rustic feel to it.
After all the paint was dry, we drilled a 1 inch hole into the bottom of the wash bowl, but the hole ended up being too big, and we ended up using some weather stripping and some duct tape to jerry-rig it all together to make sure that it could still hang from the hole. This wasn't the way we intended to do it, but it still had the same effect in the end.
What we wanted to do to make sure that the bin was more sturdy to the backing of the panel is we drilled a hole directly in the center of the wash bin and then drilled a hole in the center of the piece of wood. Once we had those pilot holes set, we could then go ahead with a screw and screw them together nice and tight.
Before we put the electrical box onto the back panel, we want to make sure we get all of our pieces in there. So we took a scrap piece of PVC pipe, used our heat gun on it, and bent it. Once it was bent at a 90-degree angle and cooled into place, we hit it with some spray paint to make it look weathered. We took that same drill bit and used it on the other side of the bottom of the bin to make another hole, and used a Dremel to make the hole a little bit bigger since it didn't quite fit. Once that was done, we fed it through the bottom of the hole and it hung the same way as the other pipe. We then went ahead and attached the wash bowl to the back panel with 2 screws this time to make sure it didn't spin around.
After ensuring the fitting of the pipe, we drilled a hole in all 4 corners of our panel. We wanted to make sure that our bolts fit nicely in those holes and could screw in nice and tight. The top ones are not going to hold anything, so they just need to be screwed in flush, but the bottom ones are going to be attached to the PVC pipe to hold everything together.
Out of our 10-foot, 3/4 inch pipe, we cut 2 4-foot segments to use as the legs, and the last 2 feet was used for the 90-degree angle pipe. Once we had the first 4-foot segment cut, we used that to mark on the other 4-foot segment so that they would be roughly the same size.
Next, after we had everything cut, we ground down the ends to make sure that they would sit flush against the ground and hit them with a thick coat of the hammered gray spray paint to give it texture and to make sure it looked like a pipe.
With everything ready to be put together, we lined up the pipe with the backboard and put a Sharpie through the hole to make sure we knew where to drill the pilot holes. And then we went ahead and drilled 2 pilot holes on each of the PVC pipes. With the pilot holes ready, we put a screw through the middle of the board, and then we put the bolts through the bottom corners of the board, just like it is in the actual model. This design helped it to stay sturdy and able to stay upright by itself.
Finally, we had to attach our last 1/2 inch pipe to the back of the panel. We drilled a pilot hole and then went ahead and screwed it into the back, cutting off the excess that was on the top. We unscrewed it once more so we could give it a good thick coat of paint and make it look rusted like the other pipes, and to give it that texture.
Next up, we took our thin sheet metal and drew out a 4 inch by 1 inch rectangle and an 8 inch on all side triangle. We're going to use these to make the metal signs on the front of the electrical panel. We took our metal shears and cut out carefully the rectangle and the triangle, making sure that the edges were as straight as possible.
We wanted to make sure to get off the excess metal burrs off and make sure that it was nice and smooth so we didn't gut ourselves, as well as in the in-game version, the tips of the triangles were actually rounded a bit, so we took the file to make that happen.
With some yellow acrylic paint, we did 2 thick layers to make sure we got good coverage on the warning sign. With the yellow dry, we used the black to line the edges with our straight edge. We then took a pencil and sketched the design of the sign. We used this sketch to fill in the design with black paint. Although it's not actually like this in the in-game model, we wanted to add the Afterlife symbol to the top rectangle to show its origins. We figured this would make a great addition to the electrical box and help people to understand what it is.
After the signs were made, we hit it with a last coat of red and black paint to make sure it was fully how we wanted it before we attached the signage. We used hot glue for this part and put it on the small rectangle first, lined it up and pressed it down, held it down for a second just to make sure it was tight. We glued down the triangle and pressed it down to make sure it was nice and tight, and finally it was ready.
We hope you guys enjoyed seeing us go through the process of making our prop. Please let us know what you think in the comments below, and feel free to leave us suggestions on what to do next. We hope you guys can take some inspiration from what we've made and make your own. And as always, hope to see you in the next one.